All right. Thank you all for joining us. Yes, please. Hi, Vanessa from New Hampshire. Happy you're here. If you'd like to add your name in the chat and where you're joining us from, we'd really appreciate it, just so we know who's in the room with us. But yeah, let's get started.
Welcome, everyone.
So we're with the North Star Black Cooperative Fellowship, and we will be giving some introductions of who we are. But before we did that, we just sort of wanted to talk about Nexus, the organization, and North Star, and dive into it. If in the meantime you do have questions, please feel free to add them in the chat or come off mute and let us know. We'll also have time at the end to answer any questions. But yeah, so happy to have you. So North Star Black Cooperative Fellowship is part of Nexus Community Partners. We are an intermediary that's located in Midway, St. Paul, founded in 2004. Hello from Duluth. We work to build more powerful and engaged communities of color so that each and every person can flourish in a joyful and abundant life. Nexus works to support strong and equitable and just communities where all residents are engaged and recognized as leaders and in their pathways for opportunities. And in our work at Nexus, we do work between authorship, which is community engagement, leadership, which is leadership development, ownership, which is this cooperative work, and stewardship. And we can go to the next slide.
All right, welcome everyone. So before we get into some more of the content, wanted to just take some time to ground ourselves. And this is called the Sacred Pause, adapted from the Black Mental and Emotional Health Collective, or BEAM. So you can choose. We invite you to take part in this. You don't have to, but just we're going to take a few minutes to just get in touch with our thoughts. And I'm going to actually draw a card from the Harvest of Survival and Affirmation deck, inspired by Octavia E. Butler. And then we'll just take a few minutes, probably 2 minutes, to just journal silently to ourselves, and then we'll resume. So I'm going to choose a random card and see what we have here. And I just want to make sure, can everyone see the screen? If you could just come off mute and let me know. I just want to make sure I'm not able to see everybody right now. So, okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yes.
All right. So the card reads, in order to rise from its own ashes, a phoenix first must burn. What is one way you can honor how far you have come? So I'm going to put that in the chat. But we'll just take about 2 minutes here. Let me see if I can access the chat. Perfect. I typed that into the chat. What is one way you can honor how far you have come? So let's just take the next 2 minutes to reflect on that question, and then we'll continue. take another 30 seconds or so to wrap up your thoughts, and then we'll continue. All right. Thank you, everyone. We'll continue on. So this slide shows our Pamoja, and this glyph was created by a North Star alum, Duaba Unenra, and each North Star Fellow, at the beginning of each cohort recently, we've been giving out notebooks that have this glyph and Pamoja, as well as this proverb by Gwendolyn Brooks. We are each other's harvest. We are each other's business. We are each other's magnitude and bond. And with this, it's a reminder of the spirit of cooperation. And yeah, it just helps us be inspired in this work and grounded that we really do need each other. We are interconnected, that our liberation is bound up with each other's. And so having this is a helpful reminder. Continue.
Yeah, and oh, sorry.
Oh, sorry. Could you not hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay.
Wonder.
Let me know if maybe I just need to, okay. Okay, thank you, Vanessa.
Yeah, and just for some context to everyone, so the sacred pause is something that we do at North Star as well, just to get grounded. We just recognize that, we're all joining the space, coming from different spaces, holding multiple things. And so just taking some time to just be in our body and just be in the space for a second together before having our thoughts and everything else wander and having to deal with other things. And the Pamoja too is also just another practice of North Star, as Liana had beautifully mentioned, that our liberation is intertwined. And so recognizing that. And so this first couple slides is really just maybe a little teaser into what our Saturday sessions would normally look like, how they would start, just so recognizing each other, seeing each other, and being grounded together in the space. And thank you so much, Ms. Donna, for answering that prompt, saying that continue to believe in yourself. That's what you were called to from that card. So thanks for sharing that in the chat. Yeah, the name of the deck, it's an affirmation deck that was inspired by Octavia Butler. I can add the link in the chat too. Yeah. All right. So the Northside Black Cooperative Fellowship, that was founded in 2017, and I'll talk about the folks that founded it. But I love this picture. This was the last time we were together in person. This was cohort 3, and the year after that, there was a pandemic, and so we weren't able to share space together. But this is one of my favorite photos of North Star because, yeah, so founded in 2017, and we can move on to the next slide. So yeah, who runs North Star? Who are we? Why are we talking to y'all? So I'm Nakuli Shangwe. I'm joining you all from St. Paul. I'm the Community Wealth Building Director at Nexus. I've been here for 7 years and started with the North Star Black Cooperative Fellowship about 4 years ago now. And yeah, so that's me.
Hi, everyone. My name is Liana Brown. I joined Nexus about 2 years ago, and I'm now the program manager for the North Star Black Cooperative Fellowship. And yeah, just a little background about these photos. In the fall 2023, we had the opportunity to go to Ghana with Repaired Nations and their the fifth annual Black Solidarity Cooperative Conference. And on the left, that is when we were at CASI, which stands for the Kweku Ando Sustainability Institute. It is an eco resort slash research and training institute that connects folks to Indigenous African practices. And then on the right, this was at a Seed Monceau, where um, enslaved Africans that were taken had their last bath before being taken to the dungeons of Cape Coast and Elmina. So a heavy space, a sacred space, but getting to connect there as well. And we're standing with Harriet Tubman, her portrait. So just wanted to share that. All right. So what is the North Star Black Cooperative Fellowship? North Star, it is a 7-month fellowship focused on Black American cooperative economics and the history of Black cooperative economic thought and practice. We center the wisdom and experience of those who share the ancestry of enslaved Africans in the United States and place value on the legacy of Black cooperative economics and collective care. North Star is a place for Black-led cooperatives, collectives, housing, commercial, and land trusts. So North Star to me, it's a sacred Black space. It's a space where we can gather and learn together and grow together in these cooperative journeys. It's a dynamic space. It's a space for growth, co-learning, right? We're learning from each other as well as from the amazing speakers that we bring, but it really is a dynamic space. And this picture, this artwork is of W.E.B. Du Bois, which talk more about him a little bit later.
Yeah, so this North Star was really inspired by this beautiful book called Collective Courage, A History of African American Cooperative Economic Thought and Practice. This year it's turning 10 years old, and so we're really excited for Dr. Jessica Gordon Nemhart. But essentially, it tells the story of Black cooperative economics in the U.S., citing the need for Black cooperative economic practice because of market failure, because the market wasn't really built for Black folks here, and so them creating their own markets, creating their own space to create wealth, to build community, etc. And in her book, we had a picture with Harriet Tubman, but in her book, she talks about how Harriet Tubman is the general of cooperators. She talks about the Combahee River Collective and how the women in the Gullah Geechee were essentially creating their own space to build space for food, housing, etc. when the men went to war. And so this is the book that we really learn from and take inspiration from. We were able to bring Dr. Nemhart to the Twin Cities soon after this book was published, and there was a learning space. From there, it evolved into a reading club, and the reading club evolved into the North Star Black Cooperative Fellowship. And I just wanted to note too, as W.E.B. Du Bois was mentioned, he wrote a book called Economic Cooperation Among Negro Americans in the 1900s, where he was talking about this beautiful space of Black cooperation. And he also lived in a housing co-op at the time. So there is this really deep history of cooperating, of collectivism, of Black people really leaning into the practices that hold us, that make us feel good, that are more wholesome than what is really available for us when we step outside into the world. And so just wanted to give some context of where this fellowship was born from.
Mhm.
And part of it, there's a little excerpt from the book. It says, African Americans have a long rich history of cooperative ownership, especially in reaction to market failures and economic racial discrimination. However, it has often been a hidden history and one that is obstructed by white supremacist violence. When there's a narrative, the history is told as one of failure. The challenges have been tremendous and have often been seen as insurmountable. The successes are often anecdotal and isolated, little understood and even less documented. So just once again recognizing that there is this really beautiful, deep Black cooperative history, and oftentimes it's just not taught to us, or it's been stripped of us, or it has a really painful ending and therefore not told. I know that we have a few photos later, but some that come to mind, especially being in St. Paul, is Crudgerfon, which was a social club that a lot of young Black folks started in St. Paul in the Rondo neighborhood, which is a historically Black neighborhood if you're in the area here and you know that. And essentially they created a social club for a place for young folks to come and hang out and just be, but also created credit unions and grocery stores and lending circles to help out families who wanted to buy houses or wanted to be part of the market in some way. And part of their history also includes the fact that they also desegregated a bunch of hotels in Minneapolis and St. Paul. And they would do this by sending the light-skinned Black folks to like register for the party at the hotel. And then when it was time to party, everyone would show up. And so just recognizing that there is this beautiful cooperative history, and sometimes it's not told, or sometimes it's not as visible as it should be.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. So the history of North Star. So as Nicole mentioned, North Star did begin as a book club. The co-founders are Danielle Mkali, who is on the right, and LaDonna Sanders Redmond on the left. And they are the folks that built this program and laid the foundation, and now we get to step in and continue it. And so Nexus, as Kuli mentioned, held space for Dr. Jessica Gordon Empart in Minneapolis to talk about her book and the research that was conducted. And Danielle created the curriculum in partnership with the Toolbox for Education and Social Action, TESSA. So North Star has had 7 cohorts and 110 cohort members. And those have included folks who are Black and people of African descent, a majority of women identified, a few male and gender non-binary folks, as well as a few LGBTQIA plus identified folks. And folks have created Black-led co-ops, including worker-owned housing, artist investment, credit union, and land trusts. And some examples of those that have come out of North Star include Yo Mama's House by Iamake Kubat, Northside Investment Cooperative Enterprise coming out of, I believe, cohort 4, and Black Broadband Coalition with folks from cohort 3, as well as our latest cohort 7.
And I think that previous picture, if you want to go back
Oh,
just a
yeah.
second, Fiona, that was from cohort 2. And what part of the projects, we'll talk about this more later too, part of the end project of North Star is to basically create some kind of project. And so they had a science fair style project, and this was the picture that was taken that day. Yeah.
Yeah, and I just looking at it, Iamake is actually the one in red. So that's the founder of Yo Mama's House, Amake Kubat. All right, I'll keep going.
Yeah, so what is it that we talk about in North Star? So North Star is very much a co-learning space. We recognize that the folks that join North Star also have a lot of wisdom and knowledge to share. And so we love learning from you all, learning together and learning from the facilitators that come and join us. We use popular education materials that draw on significant traditions and practice the art of making a sacred space. Essentially, most of our tools were helped develop by Danielle Mkali and the Toolbox for Education and Social Action, as well as we pull from some other resources too. The topics, we always start with storytelling and place setting. In the past, we'd have Auntie Beverly, who's now Ancestor Beverly, come and tell a story that's based on African tradition and Black history. For example, the story of the stone soup. That's how we'd always start North Star. I think that's a beautiful place to start and ground us all. We talk about Black cooperative history, Black feminisms. We've had Dr. Burra join us to talk about like how we can rethink capitalism and talk about solidarity economies and cooperatives and how they all fit into this larger picture, because it's going to take more than one thing to bring us closer to liberation. So we need all of those things together. We have a cooperative tour where we've invited some folks from previous cohorts to come and talk about their work and invite other Black cooperatives from across the city or the country to talk about their work and have a space for North Stars to really engage with that, but also ask questions and just be in relationship with some of those folks that are in the cooperative space. We dive into cooperative finance. We do this carefully, knowing that sometimes talking about finances can be very difficult and sometimes can come from a place of trauma. And so holding space to talk about what it looks like to finance your cooperative, but also holding space for the folks in the cohort. This year, we'll be starting to do some more cooperative feasibility to get some folks more ready on the technical assistance side. So when they graduate from North Star, they have some more resources and tools if they do want to further do work on their cooperative work. We explore democratic decision making because a cooperative is two or more people that have to collaborate, and so you have to make decisions together. We talk about what it looks like to engage community and learn from you about the different ways that you've been engaging community. We dive into governance and bylaws of cooperatives because they can be so nuanced, but they also can provide a really creative space to think about like how we want to build and set either bylaws or processes for the cooperatives. We talk about restorative and transformative justice practices as well as conflict resolution. We know that we're all a complicated people and sometimes tensions may arise. And so what are best tools and practices that can be used to keep those relationships going if there is a space where there's conflict that might arise? So that's sort of the North Star curriculum broadly, but we definitely get more detailed once we pick the cohorts and kind of know what people are looking for and tailor it more to fit some of the things that may be asked of the cohort members or the things that they're working on, just so everyone gets a little something that is a good fit for them. Some of our, like I said, we definitely lean on a lot of community educators and technical assistance providers to really give a broader depth to the curriculum. Some people that have come to North Star in the past is LaDonna Sanders-Redmond, one of the co-founders who really dissects principles and values in a really beautiful way. Iya Amake, an elder and part of Your Mama's House, who talks about her story of building this co-op and her journey and all the things she's done prior to North Star and in North Star, because she's really a fantastic and just admirable person. Omar Freya, who's the coordinator of Collective Diaspora, which is working to basically unite Black cooperatives across the diaspora in the United States, in Africa, and in South America. Noni Sessions has been part of this, who's part of the East Bay Permanent Real Estate Real Estate Co-op. EB Prec has come to our sessions to talk to us about governance. And Dr. Brewer is always welcome in the space to come talk to us about rethinking capitalism and solidarity economies and more. And so this is just a brief snapshot of some of the folks that join us. We do have some folks from Nexus too that come into the space, such as the Shared Ownership Center at Nexus that provides more technical assistance for cooperatives. Some folks from the Open Road Fund who might talk about either co-ops or the Open Road Fund or other work that's happening in the organization. So yeah, we pull from many wise people from across the city and state, and because we have access to having some of these sessions virtually, are able to also pull from national cooperators too.
Mhm. So this year, we are again inviting folks from all types of cooperatives, collectives, and land trusts to join. So any field, any sector, we welcome for this year's cohort. And just to give some definitions, have some shared language. Collectives are entities that are jointly organized and operated by a group, such as an art collective, dance collective, or farm collective. Cooperatives, people-centered entity owned, controlled, and run by and for their members to realize their common economic, social, and cultural needs and aspirations. Examples can be a worker co-op, artist co-op, housing co-op, grocery store co-op, and more. And then land trusts. Land trusts are organizations that work towards conserving land for the public benefit by protecting natural and cultural resources and providing public access. Land trusts achieve this objective by acquiring land, preserving it in its natural state, and managing it in perpetuity. So an example could be a residential or commercial land trust.
Housing co-ops, as touched upon earlier, are form when people join on a democratic basis to own or control a housing, a community facility where they live. So that could be student housing, regular housing. It could be that maybe you want to own a duplex with your neighbor. So it's really broad. And investment cooperatives. An investment co-op is a cooperative that allows residents to invest financially and collectively to buy, rehabilitate, or manage commercial or residential property. So those could there are a variety of investment cooperatives here, but it's really a space where communities kind of manage the space and have say, but also collectively buy property or collectively buy entities in their neighborhoods.
So getting into more of the curriculum. So in North Star, we also have Black study sessions which were introduced in cohort 5. And they are a space for North Stars and also community because they're open to the public to further explore and connect different cooperative topics. It's a space of engagement and learning to continue amplifying Black cooperative knowledge with community. So some previous Black study sessions have included Black creativity and collective care. We invited Deja Joel, who leads Body Prayers Practice, to come share about that. Last year, we also invited our colleagues from Root, Reclaiming Our Own Time, to talk about the Root Fund and the sabbatical programs that they're going to be offering. We've also done Kwanzaa and Cooperation, Black Cooperatives and Black Wealth, Black Cooperative Matriarchs, and Black Economic Solidarity. So again, Black study sessions, we have about 2 a year, and they are free and open to all folks while centering Black people and Black experiences. So this is an opportunity for us to also reach community that might not be in the cohort to really engage in this Black cooperative history and work and ecosystem.
And then in about cohort 3, we learned that there was a need for an alumni fund. When setting up this work and recognizing that folks might want to continue to build their cooperatives, we recognize that you can't maybe go through a 7-month training and then be like, boom, there you go, now go build a co-op without having the necessary infrastructure in place. And just recognizing too that Black folks are under-resourced and also just not capitalized enough. And so sending you out to maybe partners to sort of get resource for your cooperative can be a very difficult thing to do. And so we continue to support alumni as they continue to develop their cooperative enterprise with a technical assistance fund. And so this essentially means that once you've completed North Star, you'd have access to a small pot of funding if you want to have something for administrative support, if you want to hire a technical assistance provider to help you figure out how you want to form your cooperative, if you want to develop yourself as a leader in your cooperative or your other folks that are working with you on this, if you want to start a capital campaign and you just need the marketing, then we can help sort of fund that work to pay for someone to come and do the governance and bylaws development, to pay for a lawyer to do that. If you want to create a website or some pamphlets, we can help support doing that. We do try to make this as accessible as possible. And so we just ask that, you have the cooperative or somewhat of a collective formed in that maybe you've met in an advisory meeting for 3 months or more. And we're happy to support you in that. And we also work to connect some folks with other resources that might be available. For example, right now in St. Paul, there's the local fund, which is working to fund cooperatives in the city of St. Paul. Mayor Carter has made it his mission to make St. Paul the #1 cooperative city of the world. And so there's a local fund, which is housed at Nexus with our colleagues at the Shared Ownership Center. And so maybe it's moving into their services and getting larger amounts of cooperative financing and technical assistance. I know there's some things in the city of Minneapolis too, and broader, and in some other states too. But so we try to provide some sort of flexibility and leeway to sort of help the folks in the co-op have some access to some kind of grants or funding to start this work, just recognizing that we continue to be under-resourced and undercapitalized, and try to create something that has less barriers as people continue in their cooperative journey.
Mhm. So alumni engagement. So in the fall 2023, we did our first, I believe, comprehensive survey with alumni to one, just see where folks were at after, completing the cohort, and as well as just to check in and re-engage in a space to just see, are they still, engaging in this work? How has North Star impacted them? So we are in the process of going through that and wanting to share that back. Some of that with community and the alumni who took it. But recognizing too that, North Star is the 7-month journey, but those relationships built within the cohort, people continue to engage. We've seen in recent years, groups from previous cohorts still connected to more recent cohorts, and seeing how the through lines of this work continues, that it really is a marathon, and not a sprint. And so we just recognize that we need to continue to build relationships and support, the networking that's happening amongst alumni, such as with community events and alumni gatherings, but also doing focus groups and just continuing to get information and understand kind of how folks have been impacted by North Star. So yeah, you'll be joining into that community. I feel like not just the speakers, but the cohorts that past, present, and future really are a resource as well for each other in this work. So wanting to honor and lift that.
So what do we look for in a North Star applicant? So essentially, fellows are expected to attend all North Star events and Saturday sessions, including the Black Study sessions. So our regular sessions are, we have a calendar in the following slide, but
Mhm.
mostly once a month on a Saturday from 10 to 2. And that sometimes there's twice a month, depending on if they're holidays or if we're, balancing the calendar with spring breaks, etc. Recognizing that sometimes we also have parents in the space or caregivers. And then the Black Study sessions are Wednesday evenings at 5 to 7. Complete assigned readings and cooperate with fellows on their respective cooperative final presentations and initiatives. Fellows can expect to participate for about an 85 to 100-hour commitment between the months of October and May. So this includes the Saturday sessions and any time that might be spent outside of the sessions continuing to do your cooperative work or following up with speakers if you choose, or attending Black Study sessions, etc. Fellows are provided with a small stipend to support participation in the fellowship. So we offer $1,000 to participate in North Star, which is dispersed into 500 in the beginning and 500 at the end of the fellowship. And this would go to each person in your co-op group that is joining North Star. Just recognizing that once again, people are taking time out of their Saturday to spend time with us, and they might need to pay for childcare or pay for anything else that they may need to attend to. It's not much, especially in this inflation time, but it's sort of what we've been able to offer so far. And then this is just the Liana's portion.
Oh, it's all right. So our program date. So as Cooley mentioned, we typically do meet once a month. As you can see, in November, we meet twice, as well as March. But this year we are moving into hybrid in the fall and in the spring. So our hope is that folks who are local to the Twin Cities will join us in person, most likely at our offices. And then folks outside of the Twin Cities will join us virtually. And then in the winter, we will all be virtual during those sessions. And then again in the spring, we'll resume to hybrid. And then our Black Study sessions listed are completely virtual. So we are, growing and learning too in this space. And just we've been virtual due to the pandemic and multiple pandemics happening. And now we want to try and see how we can kind of transition back to in person, while also recognizing, accessibility and just our ability to bring in different speakers that may not be here locally. And then we have a picture of Fannie Lou Hamer, who's also very important to the Black cooperative history and work. So wanting to highlight her.
My hope, don't hold me to this, but my
Okay.
hope at graduation, on anyone that is not local, that we can have them in person.
Mm,
Liana mentioned an alumni survey, but what we've learned in that alumni survey, especially from cohort 4 to 6, is just the longing to be in person with people and to connect. Yes, you will. Yes, Oh, okay. Just the longing to connect with people in person and have space to be in space together. And so that's why we're sort of moving into this virtual hybrid moment too. And yeah, I still recognizing that folks that maybe virtual might still miss out on some things, but hoping to create space that is well adjusted for both to kind of get what they need out of that, and hoping that, graduation will be in person. If, as long as the world keeps moving as it is and nothing else drastic happens. That's my hope anyway, so that we can see everyone and celebrate together. But we will have virtual options always to recognize the need for accessibility, but also connection for folks that maybe are in different states or maybe are here too and just can't make it in person. So yeah, so applications close September 8th. So what we look for is someone who's just really interested and committed to Black economic cooperation. Be a member of a Black-led cooperative or have an idea of where they like to start. For that part, you don't have to have a cooperative that's fully thought out or a business plan or anything like that. If you do, that's amazing. Still come. Like I said, North Star is a co-learning space, so we really welcome anyone that's maybe just starting, is like a baby cooperator, just starting to be in the space, or someone who has been doing this work for a while and just wants to figure out some different aspects of it. So North Star Black Cooperative Space, we do center Black-led efforts, but we do welcome folks of all racial backgrounds, just recognizing that some cooperative groups might have cooperators that are not Black, but it has to be a Black-led initiative, and North Star is very much a Black-centered space. So for us, that means Black folks are the decision makers and the leaders in this effort. Groups of 2 or more that are committed to their cooperative idea or have an initiative that they're thinking about or have already established, that all the members from one cooperative, all the members that are participating in North Star have to submit an individual application, just so we have everyone's information and can be able to send emails to all the parties involved. And commit to attending all North Star sessions and Black Study sessions and completing the fellowship. I will say the caveat to this is we know that life happens, things happen. Sometimes there may be a space where you're not able to participate in the Saturday session. That's why we recognize the need for groups of 2 or more. So if I'm not able to come, then Liana can be there in my place. Just recognizing there's some kind of connection to that Saturday session, while also giving grace for times and spaces where people might not be able to make it, but also communicating that to us is really important. I was going to say something else too. Oh, maybe I'll stop there.
Okay. So now we finished our portion. So we just want to now open the space up if there are any questions that we can answer, and then we can close out. And I might stop sharing my screen, but again, picture of Ella Baker, another important figure in Black cooperative work. So I might stop sharing my screen just so I can see everyone again. Okay. Any questions? Okay.
Okay, I see one in the chat. I'm in a co-op now, but it's not fully Black owned. I'm a co-owner, but the co-op is fully remote and includes people from many different cultures. I'm the lead programmer for the game developer co-op. Oh, that's so interesting, game developer co-op. Would that be something that we would match here? Yes, like we said, we do recognize that folks might be cooperating with people that held different racial identities, and that's okay, as long as the entity is Black led. So there is a Black person that is leading the work and making decisions of the work, then that is fine. But also just recognizing that when they do come into North Star, we're still centering Black people, and that's just kind of how it always has been. So that, yeah, that would still be a match as long as those things are true. I will say that the only time we've had a cohort with folks from different racial identities was cohort 4. And so that was the first time we were kind of trying this concept, and it worked well. Yeah, North Star is a very much a blackity black space, and we want to honor that and recognize that some folks might be cooperating with some other folks too. So they're still welcome in the space as long as they hold the principles and values of North Star in us holding and creating a sacred black space. And then I've just added the application to the chat too. Any other questions for us? I saw a question about the calendar, and Liana linked the calendar that is on our website. But we also will be sending, well, this will be available on the web. This recording will be available on the website, which also lists the calendars, but it's also on the application as well. Any other questions?
So when you complete,
I'm here. Sorry, what was that?
um, so when you do the application, when are you're going to be notified that you were accepted? Or how does that work?
So once we receive the applications, we will review and then invite folks for an interview. So you will be notified if you're selected for an interview or not. And then from the interview process, then we will decide our cohort. So
Okay,
applications are the first step, and then folks may be selected for an interview. And then from there, we will select. And so I believe on the application, it does say those interview dates, but those interview dates are September 24th and 25th and possibly 26th if needed. So you will be notified. We'll definitely get back to anybody who applies to let them know the status of their application and kind of where we're at once we get to review all of them. So
and I have another question. I have also a individual that shared a little bit with her about it, and she was interested. Is it too late for her to get in contact with North Star for this co-op?
no,
No.
it's too late at all. So
Okay,
yeah, so is this someone that would be working with you, Donna?
yes,
Okay,
yes,
yeah, perfect. That's perfect. So we are looking for groups of 2 or more. So just to reiterate what Nikuli shared, um, cooperative groups, we just need applications from each person in that cooperative group that plans to participate in North Star. So we
okay,
can get each person's information and have that. So yes, there's still time. We are accepting applications through September 8th. So there's definitely some time left to
okay.
apply. Yep.
All right then. So all that information is going to be sent through the email, correct?
So what information exactly are
Like
you wanting?
the application, the calendar, and to fill it out and send it to the, or,
So what I can do is, so we dropped the link in the chat. If you want that emailed to you, we can, let me see. And I believe everybody here registered. So I can send an email out with the application link, a link to our website, and possibly the recording when we get that. So it might be a few days potentially,
okay, okay, that's
um,
fine.
but the link is here as well if you are able to grab that application link. If not, we could also follow up with an email with that
Okay,
information too. But it's all on our website as well. If you go to our North Star page, it has the application link there as well. So
okay.
it's live right now. Yep.
All right. Yeah, because someone shared the information with me
Okay.
and it was sounded really something interest. That's the reason why I'm here participating now.
Do you mind, because if you didn't sign up and somebody shared this with you, I don't know if we have your email address. Do you mind sending us a private message maybe with your email just to ensure that we get that to you?
Sure. Can I send it in the chat?
Yep. Just
Okay,
if you don't want to send it to everybody, you can just send it to one of us, Nikuli or Liana.
okay.
And that way we can send you a private email if you'd like. So,
All right. Let me
all
see.
right.
All right. We are available via email. It's in the chat. It's northstar@nexuscp.org. If you do have any other additional questions, we're also happy to, just answer any additional questions that you might have or any concerns, or if you need some more clarity about the fellowship. But yeah, we're super excited to launch cohort 8 and explore some new things this year. And just create another really beautiful and loving, co-learning space for cooperators who've been thinking about this work or curious about this work or have been doing this work. It's always like a really fun time. Um, I'm biased, but I'm 4 cohorts in, so it's always a really fun time. And just really a space I'm really grateful to be in, because there's nothing more amazing than Black people and being in space with them and learning from them and collaborating with them and just, learning about their different visions and for this work and this world and finding the things that are more possible for all of us. So yeah.
Yeah, I would echo that too. Saturday sessions, I feel like when I start, you might be a little tired. It's a Saturday morning, but when you end, full of energy and just great learning and exchange. So I really enjoy them as well. Thank you, Stephen.
Yeah, thank you all for joining us. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your Wednesday, and we look forward to reading your applications and maybe even having you in the cohort. We'll see. We're so excited. So thank you all for joining us. Thanks for spending time with us today.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Take care.